Hello, everybody. Welcome into Last Call, Nathaniel Finch. That is not Caden Colford. Instead, it's Graham Shearer, special edition of the show today. Graham and I just got back from New York, where we pulled some hardware. Our basketball broadcast from a year ago won first place in the national competition. Not too bad, Graham. So we figured we'd celebrate, put Graham on the desk for the day, and have a good half hour talking about some sports. We're going to talk about plenty of UIndy, obviously, men and women's basketball. Let's talk about all the different UIndy sports that are having so much success at this time of year. And then we'll talk about Purdue and IU and that game that happened over the weekend. Talk about some Pacers, the rest of the NBA, make you some money. We'll get out of here. Should be a good show. Let's get right into it. Let's start with men's basketball. Graham, this men's team, boy, they are good.
No, they're really, really good. And they played a heck of a game on Saturday against Missouri S&T. I mean, you see in the highlights right now, but they blew them out by 13, 78-65. The problem was earlier on that, on the road trip this past week on Thursday, they lost. They lost that 18-game winning streak, Nathaniel, and that was a big problem. They only put up 57 points against UMSL. They kind of lost a lot of their scoring load, and they just looked pretty lethargic coming out of the gates. They turned it around, though, in the game against S&T on Saturday. They looked strong, and they closed out the season well. Yeah,
and as far as the game on Thursday, you kind of knew it would be a tough place to play. Going to St. Louis, playing against one of the best teams in the conference, it's always a tough house to go play in. And, of course, they had their stinker. When you win 18 straight games, I think it's okay to lose one, right? You almost have more pressure going into the tournament when you've got those 18, 19, 20 straight games. So the fact that they lost this one, I think it's a good opportunity for them to refocus, realize, hey, we are beatable. We can be beat by the team that beat us in the conference tournament last year. So let's see if they can figure out a way to finish off the season strong. But, after this big win against the Miners, they got to be feeling pretty good about the offense and the defense, and it should be an exciting GLVC tournament that they got this upcoming weekend.
And, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Kind of facing the loss on Thursday kind of shows them the level of adversity that they're going to see here in the GLVC tournament this upcoming weekend, because, like you said, that 18 games in a row, it kind of caught up with them. They had a lot of tough games, against William Jewell, against Rockhurst, that they ended up squeaking out against Quincy as well. It was kind of catching up with them, and they were almost showing some level of fatigue there coming out late in the season. So it was catching up with them, and they were due for a bad game, a poor shooting night that it was catching up with them, and it did on Thursday.
So what happens now is they travel out to St. Charles, Missouri. It's home of Lindenwood, no longer in the conference, but it'll be the host of the conference tournament. So Graham and I, Landon, our director, we're all going to go out there and call the game for WICR Radio. And they play on Thursday. Usually when the 1 seed plays the 8 seed, it's an easy game, right, Graham? Well, I'll tell you what, the 8 seed happens to be one of the 3 teams that have beaten the Greyhounds this year. So it's kind of a tough draw for UIndy. I'm sure they would have been happy with any other team, but they get Quincy instead.
Right, and Quincy, they pose a lot of tough matchups for Indianapolis. They have guys that play well on offense, that defend the Greyhounds really, really well on defense, and UIndy's had a tough time with them earlier this year. Like you mentioned, they lost to them back at the end of November, and that was a game where they struggled shooting-wise as well. They only put up 57 points in that one. They did get a good scoring performance from Jesse Bingham and Josiah Tynes, but everybody else was pretty nonchalant in that one. Not a lot of scoring from anybody else, but they did. They rebounded well, and they came back in February and took down the Hawks in that one. Yep. They beat them 76-70, and they kind of controlled throughout the remainder of that game. And they improved upon, from the first game to the second game, a lot of points in the paint and also bench points. They didn't get a lot of scoring in the first game, rebounded well in the second game.
Yeah, so we'll see how that game goes. It'll be at 1 o'clock Eastern time. We will be 12 o'clock in Missouri time. And I'll tell you what, you got to listen to our voices, right? That'll be on 88.7 FM WICR. But you want to watch it too, so go on the GLVC Sports Network, stream that, matched up with our voices, and you got yourself a good day with some UIndy basketball. So let's move on. How about we talk about some women's basketball? They're also having a pretty good season. They make it into the GLVC tournament as a 4th seed. Big reason why. A big win against Missouri S&T. They defeated them pretty handily, 73-57.
Yeah, they closed out the year well. They won 3 in a row to close out the year, and they finished the year 17-11. They struggled early on, especially early back in early January when they played Missouri S&T the first time around. They were really struggling at the time, and they ended up losing that one by pretty wide margin. But in the second game, they played them and they blew them out. They did so many things better in the second time around, I should say, at the end of February over the weekend, where they just looked a lot better, and they're starting to kind of pick up with their bench points, with their scoring inside the paint. They just look a little bit more comfortable out there on the court, and it showed this weekend.
Yeah, and it's got to give you a lot of excitement going into this GLVC tournament. So we said that the number 1 ranked men's team is going to play on Thursday, so they'll get Friday off because they're that number 1 team. So they'll play on Thursday and then play Friday, Saturday if they keep winning. Women's team's a little bit different. They play on Friday, so they get an extra day since this Saturday game. But then they'll play on Friday, Saturday, Sunday if they win those games and get to the championship. So a bit more of an uphill battle. And what's tough though, Graham, is that if they win, this upcoming Friday in that game that they have against, guess who, Missouri S&T, they got Drury sitting right on the other side of that bracket. It's going to be tough if they end up matching up against the number 1 team and, a top 3 team in the nation come Saturday. Right,
and like you said, that Missouri S&T game this upcoming Friday, it certainly seems winnable. From an Indianapolis standpoint, it definitely seems like a winnable game because they're coming off a lot of confidence here the past couple weeks.
Yeah.
They haven't lost, and they just took down the Miners, so they're looking pretty strong on that end. But like you mentioned, Drury is a whole different animal. Number 2 team in the nation, going to be really tough to beat if they get there.
They went to Drury's place earlier this year, and they were only down by 2 at halftime, blown out in the second half. And then Drury came here just a couple weeks ago. You said the Grams have won 3 straight. Well, the one before that was the loss to Drury, in which case, they were right there. They were blown out for most of the game, but then towards the end, they kind of made a great comeback. We're right there within single digits, ended up losing the game against the Panthers in that game. So it'll be interesting to see. It's hard to beat a team 3 times.
Right. It is tough to beat a team 3 times, like you mentioned. But they showed some signs of a lot of good signs in that Drury game because, like you mentioned, they came back strong in the end of the game, and they made it a good game. They played really good defense. They picked that up over the course of the game, and that really showed because when it came down to it, it got down to a 10-point game. Drury hasn't been tested like that here in a minute, and UIndy, they really put them to the test. So I think it'll be fun if we get that semifinal matchup come Saturday. I think it's going to be a really fun game to see and to call.
Best part about conference tournaments, doesn't matter what sport, what level, anything can happen. And we'll be excited to see what the number 4 ranked UIndy team can do in this bracket, the 4 seed. See what the women's team can do here in St. Charles. Same deal. Friday night, this game will be at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Listen to our voices, match it up from 88.7 WICR. Match it up with the video from the GLVC stream, and you got yourself a great night watching some UIndy women's basketball. That will do it for all of our UIndy basketball stuff. That doesn't mean we're done with UIndy sports. How about we start with some wrestling? This number 8th ranked UIndy wrestling team, they just returned from the NCAA Super Regional 4. They walked away with 7 of their 10 guys advancing to the national tournament. That'll be in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Jack Idle George was the highlight of the Hounds' trip to Edmond, Oklahoma. He became just the 2nd Greyhound in program history to win 3 regional titles. Very impressive stuff. Alongside him, we had Braden Bailey, Ray Rio. We had Logan Bailey, Owen Butler, and Derek Blubaugh, Cale Gray. They all will be heading to Cedar Rapids as well. The 7 qualifiers matched the mark set last season, the program record set all the way back in 2007. The Hounds, they finished 2nd at the regional as a team, so good job collectively as a unit. And they'll finish as runner-up to the champion Central Oklahoma. The NCAA Division II Championships, again, in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, is up next for the 7 Greyhounds, with wrestling starting on March 10th down the pike here a bit. That'll end on the next day, March 11th. So we'll make sure to keep an eye on how the wrestling team does for that.
Let's check in on the UIndy indoor track and field teams. They just wrapped up action this past weekend at the 2023 GLVC Indoor Championships. Sunday afternoon, hosted right here on campus with a pair of top 3 team finishes. The women collected 2nd place as the team just fell short of the champion Lewis on Sunday, while the men, they finished 3rd overall behind champion Missouri S&T and runner-up Lewis in that one. Individually, Ellie Lengrich was named as the GLVC Women's Indoor Field Athlete of the Year for her great weekend in the meet. And in a combined total between the men's and women's programs, the Hounds brought home 8 gold medals, and they broke 3 school records over the weekend. Pretty impressive stuff from both the men and the women.
Yeah, a great weekend with that indoor track and field. Be excited to see how the outdoor season goes for them coming up here soon. How about we move on to the number 7 ranked UIndy women's tennis team, number 7 in the nation. They finished their Nebraska trip with a victory over the number 5 ranked Flagler Saints. That was by a score of 4-3, the final match clincher being the reigning D2 Senior Player of the Year, Anna Novikova. A great game, a great match for her. The Hounds stay on the road. They'll travel south to Tampa, Florida. Pretty jealous of that one. They got matches against Tampa on March 15th and St. Leo on March 16th. Those both will be over spring break. Give them a watch.
Yeah, how about both those tennis teams? They beat top 5 ranked teams in the nation in their respective ITA championships the past couple weekend. It's back-to-back sweeps, though, for UIndy baseball, with the Hounds taking all 3 games over this homestand this past weekend. They beat the Grand Valley State Lakers. Logan Peterson picked up his 2nd win of the year. He pitched 7 innings while only giving up 2 earned runs on 5 hits. Brandon DeWitt was the driving force offensively for the Greyhounds lineup. He went 4 of 5 with his first home run of the year. And the lefty, Denton Mook Shepler, also went yard. He hit his 2nd homer on the year with his 2nd long ball, and the Hounds pulled off the sweep of a good Lakers squad who falls to 0-3 on the year. This win catapults Indianapolis. They're 6-0 now on the year, and they have an upcoming weekend off. They won't play again until March 7th. They'll host the Purdue Northwest Pride, a doubleheader that Tuesday afternoon. First pitch set for 1 p.m.
You got to take a look at this baseball team. They're such an impressive squad. I mean, come on, we haven't had a team like this in quite a while. It's been a few years. This team's been kind of poor the last few years, but you know, they get a couple wins in that GLVC tournament last year. Suddenly they're kind of catapulted to, you know, another level. Some new transfers on the squad. They're looking good. 6-0. You got to go check them out. Pretty excited to see what the season can hold in store for them. Also with a great season, and it's almost at an end, is the swimming and diving season. They've got a week from today, their national championships. Our own Leticia Vaselli of UIndy TV. Well, she's also a national champion swimmer for this squad. She went and did a little story over the team, a preview of what nationals will look like. Let's take a look.
The Division II Swimming and Diving National Championship will happen exactly a week from today. In familiar territory, the Greyhounds are making their final preparations to compete in downtown Indianapolis at the IUPUI Natatorium. Just a couple weeks ago, the Hounds competed in the Great Lakes Valley Conference in Evansville with a very positive outcome of the women's team taking a first ever win overall, while the men took 2nd place. The momentum of the great swims are taking the Hounds into the final stages of training.
I'm looking forward to our team getting to reap the benefit of their hard work and just enjoying what we've done throughout the year. We've pushed hard. We've kind of obsessed over being as perfect as possible, and at this point we get to just do it and let all of that time and effort pay off and see where we are.
Out of the highlighted swimmers of the meet, graduate student Joanna Baez is a team captain and a national champion who has goals of her own for nationals.
Knowing that we're the best in our conference kind of motivates us to be the best in the nation. I think it sets us up for good things.
We want to represent UIndy well. We want to carry ourselves well on deck. We want to be a team that the surrounding teams want to win. We want to treat people right. But I expect that we swim and dive at a high level.
Just mentally be there and not stress a lot about it, so I don't get nervous and looking at all the divers, they've been practicing for more time than me. Just do what I know to do.
Coming off of a very successful conference meet, the Hounds have high expectations and goals for the national championship. We wish them and myself good luck next week. From UIndy, I'm Leticia Vaselli, UIndy TV News.
A big thank you to Leticia Vaselli for that little preview. Looking forward to see what Leticia herself and the rest of the teams can do at the Natatorium. That's right here downtown. Go check them out next Monday. Pretty excited to see what our women's and men's team can do here. They got a shot at winning number 1 because Queens, they're up in D1 now. This UIndy squad, they can do it. They could be national champions.
They absolutely can. They have a ton of amazing swimmers. Cedric Busing, Diego Mas, they've set school records this year. Joanna Baez, don't even mention her. and you heard from her there, but they're excited for this one, and I'm excited as well.
Let's go ahead and switch gears. How about we talk about the game up in Mackey? It was Purdue and IU, and the Hoosiers getting the season sweep. First time since, I believe, 2007, something. It's been a long time since they've last swept the Boilers, and this was a shocker. I thought Purdue had this one in hand. I thought there was no shot they would lose this. It didn't quite happen the way that we thought, Graham.
And I think the biggest part of why Purdue fell, or should I say Indiana won, was their defense. Their defense was outstanding in this one. They really defended Zach Edey well. And as I say that, Zach Edey still puts up 26 and 16, big part of why he should be, in my opinion, the player of the year in Division I basketball. But they really defended him well. They double-teamed him at the right times, and Edey just seemed uncomfortable at times when he was trying to kick out off of those double teams. And on the flip side of that, when Purdue tried to double-team Trace Jackson-Davis, they were able to limit him offensively, scoring-wise, but he was able to kick out, and his passes out of the double team really worked well throughout the game. Not only Trace Jackson-Davis, but also guys like Race Thompson. They were excellent throughout the entire 40 minutes.
Not to mention a player who, if he keeps playing the way he has been, he's going to be in a lottery pick in next year's draft. Jalen Hood-Schifino, a career high, 35 points, 7 rebounds. He could do whatever he wanted against this Purdue squad. Their entire philosophy on defense was let's shut down TJD. And while it was great, he didn't score for the first 30 minutes. That left Hood-Schifino open so often. And most of the time, it was just a little mid-range from the right side. Every time, drive right side, either hit the jumper or pass out to someone who could. It was embarrassing to see how the Boilers couldn't stop Jalen Hood-Schifino. But, man, he's been on a tear recently. He's an impressive talent for the squad.
Right, and as you mentioned that, he didn't shoot barely any threes. I think he shot 2 threes the whole game, knocked down one of them. But all of those mid-range jumpers and drives to the cup, he just looked so poised, impressive. I don't even have the words to describe his performance. It was crazy that he was able to really take this IU team. It seems like he's taken them to another level. Him, Trace Jackson-Davis, that duo is very, very special.
Makes you feel pretty good if you're a Hoosier fan, because if TJD isn't good to go, say he gets in foul trouble, say he doesn't play a game, even if he just has an off night, if a team defends him well, you can really count on other guys like Hood-Schifino, like some of these guys. Trey Galloway had a good day. Count on them to kind of bring this squad up and, bring IU to new heights. It's going to be impressive. The whole knock on them has been that they can't put up points. They can't win games on the road. They sure as heck did that in a tough road environment at Mackey Arena, and they really put one on the Boilers, especially in that second half. Right. However, for Purdue, it was a solemn night Saturday night. They woke up Sunday morning, got to be pretty happy. Maryland, they defeated Northwestern, gives Purdue a share of the Big Ten tournament title. All they got to do is win one more of the next 2. They've got Wisconsin, they've got Illinois after that at home. You just got to win one of those games. You're Big Ten champions. Regardless, you're outright Big Ten champions. Regardless, they already secured their 25th Big Ten title. Congrats to the Boilers.
And even though Illinois is probably a much better team, they are a much better team record-wise than the Wisconsin Badgers this year, but I'm looking at that Purdue game against Illinois. Even though Illinois is a better team, I'm looking at that as the must-win game because it's at home. If it was on the road, that Wisconsin game seems like it's going to be a lot tougher.
Yeah, and it'll be the last game of the regular season heading in to Chicago. You got to imagine, if you can beat Illinois at home, you get your momentum, really build something into this Big Ten tournament, win that, get in, and maybe be a 1 seed in the tournament. We'll see how it goes.
The Purdue guards, in my opinion, they really have to pick up their play here. Fletcher Lawyer, Braden Smith, those 2 guys. The opponents that Purdue has faced here the last few games, they've lost 4 of their last 6. Their opponents in the Big Ten have found a game plan on defense that they've been able to work with and defend Purdue really well, because if those guards can't get going, you're basically asking Zach Edey to do it all. And on Saturday, he had a great game, but they defended everybody else well. IU did, and Purdue couldn't answer. He's
the only one that had a great game. Can't have that in the game of basketball. He can dominate. He really can. But you need to have more around him. We'll see if they can continue to do that. Let's go ahead and move on to some NBA. That'll be next. We've got the Pacers, a big win, big road win, and then plenty more NBA games we're going to rip through. It'll be the first time in a while on this show that we go through quite a few NBA highlights. Let's do that next here on Last Call.
Award-winning news coverage. brought to you by ethical journalists that care about you. We have you covered on crime, latest on sports, and the best in entertainment. This is UIndy TV News.
We are back here on Last Call. Nathaniel, Finch, Graham Shearer. Let's hit some NBA. Let's start with the Pacers. Big road win against Orlando and a much-needed one here in the second half of the season. You lose a tough one at home to Boston. You rebound here. Should give them some hope going into the final stretch, trying to make a play-in game.
Yeah, this win was really impressive because, Orlando isn't that great of a team, but they're only 3.5 games back of the play-in. So Indiana really needed this game. Now that moves them to 2 games back of the play-in. Their hopes aren't out the window yet. They still can close out the season well. They got about 21, 22 games left to do so. But I see this team kind of picking up a stretch here where, they could rattle off a few in a row and, fight their way back into that play-in. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they finish the 9 or 10 seed on the year.
Yeah, I can agree with that. We've got some good scores from Miles Turner, 24 points coming off a career day against Boston. He had 24 points, 8 boards. Halliburton, he's not going to put up 30 points a game, but he got 15 points, 14 assists. He's such a great player. He's exactly what this team needs. Get everyone else facilitated. And then Benedict Mathurin off the bench, 19 points. He's a good player for the squad. Halliburton
has been so impressive. So impressed with, his level of his court vision. 14 assists on Saturday. That's crazy. And he's averaging, numbers above 10 a game now. It's a custom. We have been very delighted to see the work of Halliburton and his vision. It's really helped them kind of rattle off a few in a row and helped them fight back here. Could see them win a few more.
Yeah, and it's been pretty impressive seeing what some of these other guys are doing. And Nwara has been playing well, just a lot of bench pieces stepping up. That's what the Pacers need. The starting lineup, you're going to get the points that you are, but if you can get that second unit to come in and just not blow it, they can come in and win some games. And, you got to feel good about just barely losing to Boston. You took them to overtime, what you needed to do, but beating a team like Orlando the way they did, 121-108, you like to see it. And you got to hope that maybe against the Mavericks, you're going to be on the road again. It's going to be a very tough call tomorrow night, but see if they can build something here, maybe continue to win some games here in the second half of the season, sneak into the back end of the playoffs and make some magic happen.
What excites me the most is just the potential for this team. Tyrese Halliburton, Benedict Mathurin, Andrew Nembhard, they're so deep and they're so young right now. A lot of their draft picks have done the job here lately, and I'm really excited for the future of them.
Check out the rest of the NBA. We'll start with my guy, King James. Look at the stare he's about to give you. Come on. This guy is locked and loaded. How about the biggest comeback of the season? Down 27 points in the second quarter. LeBron, AD, and the gang, they come behind and get a win late in this game, 111-108. My goodness, what a game here that we were delighted to watch, Graham.
Yeah, it was so impressive. I watched this game from start to finish, and I was very impressed with LeBron, but I was even more impressed with Anthony Davis. He played so well offensively. You see a little turnaround jumper. That was working all afternoon. And 30 points, 15 rebounds, and he has picked up his defense to another level. 3 blocks yesterday afternoon. It was just amazing to watch the level that he's playing at right now. I don't, when the Lakers, if they get into the play-in, and I very much see them getting into the play-in the way they're playing right now, offensively and defensively, they're going to be a tough out for anybody.
Yeah, they've won 3 in a row. They're kicking butt since the trade deadline, since they've got some of these new pieces. This lineup's looking good. This is without, D'Angelo Russell too. They could get even better.
And it's the acquisitions of Malik Beasley, D'Angelo Russell, like you mentioned, who's been out, but Jared Vanderbilt has been the most impressive to my eye. He had 15 points, 17 rebounds, and 4 steals yesterday.
His defense is what this team needs.
He was all over the place yesterday afternoon defending Luka. He has such long arms. He's so quick. That is a piece that any championship level team needs on defense to lock up the opposing best player. Somebody like Luka Doncic, if you can throw Jared Vanderbilt on him for 25, 30 minutes of the game, he locks him up.
Yeah, Lakers on the back end of the playoffs, but they're right there. They just need a couple more wins. They'll be a 6th seed. They're right there where they need to be. You don't want to play this LeBron and AD team into the playoffs. You just got to hope AD can stay healthy. How about we move on? Let's talk about our next game right after this one because, there's always plenty to talk about in the NBA, but it was a masterclass. Kyrie and Luka doing their thing. Lakers just found a way to stop them. So, pretty impressive.
I was very, very impressed with the Lakers. The Mavericks are going to be a big game playoff contender here come soon. But another couple playoff contenders, the Suns and the Bucks. An outstanding game, a rematch from a couple finals ago, 2021, where the Bucks took them down in 6, the Suns. But a lot of the same here, Finch.
Yeah, no Giannis. They still did a great job with everyone else. It's just, they're such a deep team. It's so hard to beat such a squad. They've got a huge winning streak. This has been an impressive Milwaukee squad. Booker's looking good, though, since coming back from his injury. He's been playing well. It's good to see that. But, it's been something else from this Bucks team, 14 straight wins. And they get the win here against the Suns 104-101.
I don't see any team besides Boston contending with the Milwaukee Bucks in the Eastern Conference other than Joel Embiid and the Sixers. I mean, the only problem is I don't think anybody has anything that they can throw at Joel Embiid to stop him. But the Bucks and the Celtics, I would be very, very surprised if it wasn't those two matched up in the Eastern Conference Finals, Nathaniel.
This is the Suns team, only lost by 3. This is without Kevin Durant, their prized acquisition of the trade deadline. Durant should play. We're hoping that he'll play on Wednesday at Charlotte, and he should be good to go for the stretch run. Give him, about 10, 15 games on some load management. Get him kind of accustomed to this Phoenix lineup, and then they hit the ground running in the playoffs. They could be big. They could be big with KD.
Yeah, Phoenix is already so good. Adding, a talent like Kevin Durant just gives them a whole nother level. I would be surprised if they weren't in the Western Conference Finals with their talent.
Yeah, be excited to see how both these two teams shake up. And you're right. I mean, this could be a preview of what's to come. How about we move on? Talk about Kawhi and the Clippers. They had an impressive game against Denver and, went down to the end. They got to overtime. The final score, they're a little bit lopsided. The Nuggets got a big win there, but, it went to overtime still, so you like to see that. It just seemed like LA couldn't do anything in overtime, but just look at some of these highlights. I mean, Kawhi, everything was working for him. This whole squad is really, really impressive. Everything there was good except for the fact that, a couple of our players couldn't get the points they needed to win you and I some money. But aside from that, it was a fun game.
So, Nathaniel, we know that the Nuggets are great in the regular season. My big question right now is what are they going to do come postseason time? Obviously, they have the MVP of the league, Nikola Jokic. He's the favorite again this year.
Yep.
We'll talk about that in a minute, Nathaniel. And Nikola Jokic, a 40-point triple-double. I mean, he plays great, and maybe he should be the MVP favorite. But the Nuggets, I want to see what they do come playoff time.
Yeah, it'll be pretty impressive to see it. It's been a fun squad here. Both, the Nuggets with everything that, Jokic has been able to do. Obviously, in overtime, he did a 30-point triple-double. The rest of the squad, pretty impressive. So let's finish off on these NBA highlights. How about instead we'll talk about, some gambling picks we got this weekend. How about the rest of the NBA slate? I mean, we looked at the odds for MVP. You said Jokic. He's a big favorite, minus 310. Next best, plus 500 for Joel Embiid. It seems like Jokic is going to be the one to go back to back to back.
And I'm not sure that that's the right pick, though. I mean,
I
because
agree.
I know, because Jokic, he's a great regular season performer, don't get me wrong. But when it comes postseason, I feel like he slips up a bit. He might just have those early year, nerves still. And Joel Embiid, I feel like I like Embiid for that award this year.
And Embiid's averaging almost 10 more points a game than him. That's what's crazy is that Jokic, he's averaging, double-double, triple-double almost. But you're looking at what Embiid does. He scores a lot more. It's just, I think I like that. How about a pick that I'll give you tonight before we let you off? For this Celtics game tonight, Celtics versus Knicks, I've got Jason Tatum to score 25 points, 8+ rebounds. How about Julius Randle, 20+ points, 6 rebounds, and Brunson, 20+ points. That's plus 230 on FanDuel. I really like that pick. I'd go through the weeds and tell you why I picked that. But basically, Jaylen Brown not in the game. Tatum's going to go off, and those Knicks guys always do. So should be a lock for you tonight. Put some money on it. We'll see how it goes. That's it for Last Call. Nathaniel, Finch, and Graham Shear.